Imagine how your life can change in 15 seconds. Could you imagine being where you are today? Today, I'm taking my 15-year-old self on a journey, reminding him that anything is possible. I grew up in East St. Louis where my days were a mix of hopes, dreams, and disappointment. Let me tell you a story about a young me. I grew up in a community full of unseen struggles and hardships. At this age, I can remember living among abandoned houses, gang violence, neighborhoods with lurking threats, and a lack of resources. Who would have thought a kid like me be okay? My name is Bryan Tucker, a father, a friend, a role model. And I stand here today to share with you what has shaped me into a mental health advocate. At the age of 15, I was struggling with my community, my environment, my personal life. I witnessed a 15-year-old male get shot and killed from down the street from where we stayed. That was my everyday reality, trying to stay safe, trying to stay focused, which hope overshadowed. Then at 15, I got a phone call. Hello? I was becoming a father. I was scared, overwhelmed, not sure how to navigate this new reality. I could hear my mom crying in the next room. Feeling like a father, I didn't know how to become that father. I was scared. Like, what did I just do? At the age of 15, I had a multitude of feelings. I prepared, but I wasn't ready. This is one of the hardest mountains that I've had to climb now. Because I speak verbally about where I've been, how I feel, to this moment. I was becoming a father. I had so many emotions built up inside of me. But I thank my parents and my grandma for being there for me through so many things. And they brought me through it. I can just remember my grandma said, everything will be okay. And it did. Everything was okay. Even as of today and now, she pulled me to the side and was like, we can do this. And we did. I didn't come from a family with degrees or a history of great jobs. My family didn't come for a bunch of money, but what I do know, my family was built upon support. Support that kept us going through the toughest of times. See, my mother couldn't give us everything, but she gave us love and resilience, which kept us finding our way through the hardest of times. See, me and my brother, we shared everything. Shoes, clothes, doing whatever it was to survive. Even in high school, we would switch shirts. And in college, it was like one of my friends would say, all y'all got in your refrigerator was bacon and ice. Because we did. It was tough, but we kept going. I kept telling them, we could do this. And we kept saying, we could do this. It wasn't like we didn't want to become men. We had to find our way and focus to become who we are today. Also, one of my best friends, my little sister Bryan, she has been there through everything. And I thank you so much. But we kept going. Our house was filled with so many emotions, so many unspoken emotions. And that's what led me here today for where I am. See, I have a father. And my father was my mom's husband, who did a great job. But my biological father was missing. I wanted him to be there. I was scared. Because I never had seen that part of my father. So I decided to become the father my son needed. I never gave up on him. And my family, even when I got backed against the wall, they were there for me through the hardest of times. So I chose to be the father my son needed once again. And then I realized that I had to do something better. My emotions were overcoming me more and more and more. One of the biggest things that I learned through this process is how I can control my emotions and continue to fight when something is bothering me. So I surrounded myself with people who I wanted to be like, wishing that how they reflected me. I was mindful of what I posted online, mindful of what I shared in front of people, acting if I was already on the path to becoming who I was. So one of my big problems, I let a lot of people get in my head and tell me what I can and what I can't do. It kept me going through many hard times. So I continued to fight. So Black fathers face many different barriers. Society paints a picture that many of us don't make it, that we can't handle the mental health struggle that come along with life. But guess what? I did. Yes, I was scared, alone, embarrassed. And it wasn't that I was alone from my family, I was alone in my head. I made all those excuses of why I wasn't the person I was. So I kept going. Also, many of us struggle with depression, anxiety, pain. We're told, toughen up. But vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's just as important for the people that's around us, family members, partners, friends. We need spaces where Black fathers can talk and heal and grow. So, like I said, I wanted to do something different. I went back to school. Going to school was hard. I was struggling to pay bills, my academics. It reminded me of the same challenges I had as a child. A teacher pulled me to the side one day and said, maybe you should switch to a trade. That would be easier. See, I wanted to be a part of that 23% of Black men with a college degree, not just one that represents a statistic of a Black man who didn't succeed, but one that represents everything in a Black man's whole. So I kept going, even when my insecurities pressed down and I felt like giving up. So one day, I went back to school, to my high school. A teacher looked at me and said, I never thought you'd make it this far. So those words hit me, making me feel broken all over again, like I hadn't moved at all. But I realized that I could use those words as fuel to become who I needed to be. Her words followed me. Every room I walked in, every mirror I looked in, every hand I shake, it was determined for me to be better. So, guess what? I joined a fraternity, brotherhood, scholarship, service. I finished my degree. I got a second degree. I got a third degree. I made the dean's list, multiple semesters. Received awards, Sigma Excellence Award, Catch Me at My Best, and now a TED Talk speaker. All to show my son that perseverance pays off. See, but I kept going. I kept fighting. And I seen it inside of me, where it's like, if I give up, all the judgment, the shame, the lonely cries will haunt me forever. So what I did, I continued to fight on. And one thing that supported me and kept me this way, I had a praying grandmother that she was on my side every step of the way. She did it all for me. My family never let me down when it was time to become who I wanted to become. So, but we all have that one individual that comes into our life and makes a major impact on who we are. My uncle, his belief instilled in me, how he believed in me, his confidence, how he carried himself to his community. His words is evident to my family. If I don't teach y'all what I learned, I fail. Coming from the same backgrounds that he come from, he showed me no matter where you come from, you can succeed. So I kept going. I pushed. I worked longer nights, many, worked multiple jobs to become this man I am today. As his words, as he would say, I gave you the blueprint, and he did. I tell you all this, I want every community member, every father, every young individual to know you have the power to rewrite your own story. No matter how impossible things may seem, your past doesn't define your future. As Bob Marley would say, you never know how strong you are, and so being strong is your only choice. Support each other, uplift one another, create spaces where Black fathers can talk and heal, and young individuals can grow. This is my son.
Class of 2027, we are the future. Many of you all may know me as your CHS morning announcer with the line, "Good morning, Comanches." Yes, I do announcements every morning. Or you may know me as your sophomore class president, maybe even your CHS cheer captain for the 24-25 season. Or better yet, I'm your student secretary for CHS Peace Warriors. But in reality, after taking off all of my hats, I'm just your average student from the graduation class of 2027.
Become the support that the next generation needs to succeed. Not bad for a 50-year-old father from East St. Louis, right?